We've discussed the relationship between Hebrew and English in a generic sense. If you recall, when we were looking at Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, the way we structure that verse, hopefully you'll recall. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a garment of a woman. That's how we framed it. And we saw that the word that was equal to what? Not pertaineth. In the English it says that thing is the garment. For the woman it says garment, and for the man it says that. And then it says which pertaineth. And what would be the corresponding phrase underneath that? What does it say? Sorry? It doesn't say belongs in the English. It says woman's, and woman's, a woman with apostrophe S, is possession. So the woman is possessing something, and what she possesses is the garment. So it's the garment that the woman possesses or belongs. We okay with that? That's what we assessed, came to conclusion in the English. And if you look at a dictionary definition of the word pertain, it means what? Sorry? Yeah, in English. What does the word mean, pertain? Belong. Means belong. So that's what it's teaching us in the English. Now, if we go to the Hebrew and we look up 1961, Strong says, to exist, that is, to become, come to pass, in an emphatic or forcible or strong fashion. And it's not merely copula. What does copula mean, if I'm pronouncing that correctly? It's an unusual word, so I presume most people don't know, so don't look, I've looked for you. It means joining or auxiliary, a helper, an assistant. So that's what that word 1961 means. And what does it translate into the English? It means to wear. Are we okay with that? Now, it says wear here, doesn't it? What does it say down here? And what is put on? That's 3847. And this is 1961. Is that right? The number's correct? Yeah? Stop. 3847. Is that better? Okay, so in the English, put on a garment or wear that means exactly the same thing, doesn't it? But in the original, they use two different words. So we want to know why. So the word put on is a singular Hebrew word, 3847, and it means what? You have to shout loud if you're going to. Sorry? It's a primitive root. That means there are no words underneath it. It means properly to wrap around. By implication, to put on a garment or or clothe oneself, literally or figuratively. So it says to put on, and it means to wrap around. Can we see that that word is being translated quite well? If you go to Brown Driver Briggs, it actually does mean to dress, wear, clothe, put on clothing, be clothed. To put on clothes, be fully clothed. To array yourself with dress. Are we okay with that? So this word put on means to dress. Are we okay with that? It actually does mean to put something on. If it was a cloth, you'd be wrapping it around you, or a shawl. Everybody okay with that definition? So that's relatively straightforward. But when it comes to what a woman can or cannot do, it uses a different word. It's, as we've said, 1961. And it means, in the Strongs, to exist, that is, be or become in a forcible, strong fashion. And it doesn't just merely mean to join or a helper, an auxiliary. Brown Driver Briggs. To be, become, come to pass, exist, happen, fall out. Some of the other definitions is to come into being or to become, to exist. Is everybody okay with that so far? You can compare it with 1933. So 1933 is primary root. It means to breathe, to be, in the sense of existence. Are we okay with that? Brown Driver Briggs says to fall, to be, become, exist, happen. So I want to go back to the word itself, 1961. Can we see it's a verb? Strong's doesn't tell you what part of grammar it is, but Brown Driver Briggs does. It's the verb. What is a verb? A doing word. What else is a verb? It's not just a doing word. Action means doing word. So a verb describes an action or a doing word. What else is a verb? Sorry? I didn't hear what you say. No, a verb is not a noun. So a verb describes action or doing word. Are we okay with that? A verb also describes what? Sister Emma? So I don't know if we're familiar with that. a verb also can describe a state of being. Now, if you were happy, it's not an action that you're doing. It's an emotion or a state of being. Are we okay with that? So a verb cannot just only be an action, it can also be a state of being. So if you're alive, are you doing anything? No, you're just existing. So the concept of being alive is a verb. It's a state of existence. Are we okay with that? Because some people are not familiar with that concept. In fact, almost nobody said that they were. Is that a new concept for people? That a verb is a state of being. Did you know that, my sister? Anyone over there in that cluster of people? Nobody? Brother Andrew? Yeah? Over here? Anybody knew that? Yeah? So some people knew, but not many. So a state of being, it describes what your condition is. It doesn't necessarily mean action. Are we okay with that? So 1961 means what? The Strong's definition, first one. To exist. Are you doing something? No. Now, if you took the word put on, is that doing something? Yes? What kind of verb is that? An action verb, a doing word, yes? Now, the one that's on top, 1961, it tells you that the primary definition means to exist. So, are you doing anything? No. You're just existing, and that is not an action. It's a state of being. To exist, that is to become. So you might say you're born. So once you're born, now you exist. That is a state of being, that is a verb. It can also mean come to pass, which they get it from the concept of to become. It's used emphatically or forcibly in a strong fashion, and is not a mere, I think it's copula, which means a join-in or auxiliary, a helper or an assistant. It's not just some helper, not some assistant. Are we okay with that? Just going to read Brown Driver Briggs' definition. To come into being, to become. Are we okay with that? So just taking that word and its definition, and we put it into this context. If a man does what the verse says, what is the man doing? What is the man, what's happening with the man? We know it says man here, don't we? And it says woman. Tell me what is going on with this man. Sorry? The man is wrapping himself in a woman's garment. We okay with that? That's all he's doing. Is he still a man? Sorry? No. He's not become a woman. He's just wrapped himself in a woman's clothes. He's still a man. No change. So, a woman, if she wears that which belongs to a man, what is the verse saying? It's not saying a woman, there's a knot in here. I didn't put that in it. It doesn't say a woman is not allowed to wear or put on a man's clothing. What does this word mean? become, come into existence, become. Are we okay with that? It's a verb. It's a state of being. So, what is this statement saying? A woman shall not become a man. It's not just merely putting on men's clothes. A woman shall not become a man. Are we okay with that? How does a woman become a man? How does a woman become a man? That's what we want to try to understand. So we've looked at 1961. Where? Now before we address that issue, I just want to go to a couple of other passages. Now remember we said if you're going to work in English, things kind of make sense. But as soon as you start working in the Hebrew, things can start going funny. So if we looked at the word 1961 in the scriptures, it comes up many, many times. The first place, not the first mentioned in scripture, the first one I want to bring us to is 1 Samuel 27:6. Now before you turn there, or before we discuss that, it says in Deuteronomy 22:5, that which pertaineth, and the word is 36:27. Are we okay with that? 36:27. And it's all of that. Everyone okay with that? 36:27. That which pertaineth. And the where is 1961. So we're not going to look at 36:27 yet. We're going to go to 1 Samuel 27 verse 6. And in 1 Samuel 27 verse 6, it says, what's the most important word? Who said? I don't know who spoke. Heard a sister's voice? My sister? Did you say something? The most important word. Pertaineth. Are we all okay with that? So pertaineth. Now if you go to the Hebrew and you look at the word pertaineth, what word is it? What word does it come up? Hopefully we're all on the same place here. Should be able to find it by now. We're in 1 Samuel 27 verse 6. We're looking at the word pertaineth. And what word is that in the Hebrew? Sorry? 1961. It's the same word that's here, isn't it? Yeah? So we've got 1961 and it's translated as where, and it's translated as pertaineth in two different Bible passages. But here, 36:27 is translated as pertaineth. So, what's going on? Give another passage. 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 9. 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 9. Then the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said unto him, I have given unto my master's son all that pertaineth to Saul and to all the house. What's the key word? Pertaineth. What is it in the Hebrew? 1961. What does the word 1961 mean? To become. So how does that fit into this passage? I have given thy master's son all that to become to Saul and to all his house. What does that mean? Is that an accurate translation to say pertaineth? If the word means to exist. No opinion? Too difficult? Not sure? Sister Jackie? Is it translated correctly? It means to exist, that is to become, come to pass, forcibly, not a helper. Brother Dennis? Good translation? Bad translation? Explain. We're in 9:9. Tell me how that word's being used. The word means to exist. To become, come to pass, exist, happen, fall out.
That which had become Saul. So I would say that it's correct when it is page 1961.
I didn't understand what you just said.
I'm saying in Samuel 9:9,
Yeah.
the word paternal there to me, I'm seeing it's being used correctly.
It is.
Yes.
You said that before. I asked you to explain.
Because if I would read the verse, it says, the king is going to call unto Saul's servant and say unto him, I have given unto thy master's son all that which is owned by Saul himself. So paternal is something that Saul himself had it. It existed unto all his house. So I'm seeing when the verse is saying pertained to Saul, I'm seeing this is Saul's property. It belongs to him.
The word doesn't mean belong. The word means to become, to exist.
It's something that whatever is being given, something that exists and it's linked to Saul.
It was something that existed
Yes.
and
Saul's property.
are we satisfied with that answer? No? You said no? Do you have a thought?
David is giving all unto them. I have given unto the master's son all that exists and has become so.
All that exists.
And has become so.
Okay? So that was similar to Brother Dennis. Sister Snyder? It has? Explain.
So what was Saul's properties being given to his son? So I can say his son becomes a person who inherits Saul's property.
I heard it up to the son becomes an heir. I didn't hear after that.
The one who inherits his property.
So how does an heir and inheritance confirm that this is a good translation? Okay? Brother Dickens? Is it good or bad translation?
So when you say in English, if you have to use paternity to be belong, may be correct. But when you see the first verse, the beginning of the verse, there is an apostrophe there. Though it's not the same person. Because the saying sounds servant. So I think sound servant or servant that belong to sound would be like repeated and done.
You lost me, sorry. If pertaineth means belonged, would it be good? If pertaineth means belonged, is it translated correctly? Yeah? But it means to come into being. So is it translated correctly now, to come into being? No? Anyone else? No thoughts? Okay, we'll move on. So I think I agree with Sister Schneider's definition, her explanation. This thing that existed or belonged to Saul now has been transferred to the master's son, or Saul's son, and now it exists in a new form, in a new being, which in essence is his property. So even though it was the same item, its existence now is under a new name, a new person. So it has a new existence. So I think that's a good translation. But I wanted us to see that it does not mean pertain. And we did another one, 27:6, 1 Samuel 27:6, we already did that one. Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. So the simple translation is Ziklag belongs unto the kings of Judah unto this day. And what would we say? Ziklag exists. Ziklag exists in the country of Judah up to this moment in time. Its existence is still there. So that's an accurate translation. Deuteronomy 25 verse 5. Deuteronomy 25 verse 5. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. So what's the important word here? Not so obvious perhaps. It's the word marry. What does marry mean? We can see 1961, it's the same word. So now it's gone to marry. Is that a good translation? Who said yes? Someone said yes? Why is that good? Sorry? You have to? Okay, so how do you know it's good then? Brother Rogers? Good or bad? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Explain.
I think in old times, when someone was married, she existed or became someone's property. So the word has the same connotation as to exist or become.
Okay? I think you can do it without the connotation of property. Sorry?
He has given a single line of thought. So, now in this system, one means to become. So, if you have to see, so they're saying, so if someone's wife has died, so if someone has died and the wife has remained, so it means that those two people, the wife had become, was, a property was passed to that person. So if the wife is to go to another person again, it is not making sense. That's why they're saying that she should be there and the brother of that person should be there to take her. Something is still having the same, it's having a single line of thought. So to become nothing.
Anyone else?
I think it says if the brothers died, then the wife shall not become the property of a stranger, but shall become the property of the brothers.
Why do we keep saying property as opposed to wife?
It becomes she becomes the wife.
I don't see where we see property in this verse. If the husband dies, the wife will not continue to exist as a wife to a stranger. She has to exist as a wife to the brother of the husband. Yep, it's a good translation. Good. 2 Samuel 18, verse 22. Second Samuel 18, verse 22. Second Samuel 18, 22. We'll do 20, it's 22 and 23, it's the same phrase. But howsoever, said he, let me run. And he said unto him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and overran Cushai. So the phrase is, which phrase are we looking at? but howsoever. That's the translation of 1961. Does your Bible also say H4100? Yep. What's that referring to? The but. So that's the but. And howsoever means what? To exist. So the verse says, but howsoever, he said, let me run. And he said unto him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and overran Cushai. That good translation? My brother at the back? Good translation? Howsoever. 2 Samuel 18:23. Brother Benjamin. 2 Samuel 18:23. Good translation or bad translation? Why is it good? It's going to be in that state. Everybody okay with that? He says, please, what? Can I become, help them, Brother Benjamin. Sorry? Please, can I become? What does he want to become? A runner. Yeah? He wants to be a runner. Everybody okay with that? That's the state of existence that he wants to be. He wants to be a runner. So it's an accurate translation. If you go the verse before, then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, yet again to Joab, but howsoever, let me, I pray thee, also run after Cushai. And Joab said, wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing thou hast no tidings ready? So his accurate translation, it's a good translation again. He says, I want to become a runner. And Joab says, you cannot become a runner. You can't be in that existence. Why? Because you don't have, which is, you don't have a message. A runner is a messenger. If you don't have a message, you can't be a runner. You can't be in that existence. Okay, so coming back to our verse, Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. We've seen that 1961 can actually be translated in different ways. We've got 4 so far: to wear, to pertain, to marry, and howsoever. And in the English, all those things mean pretty different things. The woman shall not wear. That means to come into existence, that which pertaineth unto a man. Are we okay thus far? We've dealt with the man quite extensively. The woman. Has anybody looked at the woman? Anybody? It means woman, wife, female, related to the word man, also related to the word mortal or person or mankind. Are we okay with that? So what does the word mean in the English? Basically, a female person. Are we okay with that? Could potentially be the wife. They shall not become. What shall they not become? A brave, fighting man who is. Sorry? Who's over 20 years old. 20 years old or over. We okay with that? Let's look at the word pertaineth. 36:27. 36:27. It's a masculine noun, so it's attached to a man. So that's all good. It says something prepared. That is an apparatus. Apparatus, depending on how you pronounce it. As an implement, a utensil, a dress, a vessel, or a weapon. Translated, this is not definition. Armour, artillery, bag, carriage, furniture, instrument, jewel. Brown Driver Briggs, an article, a vessel, an implement, a utensil. Thinking about utensils or implements or apparatus, a vessel. It's an implement of hunting or war, an implement of music, an implement or a tool for labour, an implement such as a yoke, a utensil, furniture, can be a vessel, etc. Boats of paper reed. Comes from a root word which is 36:15. This is a verb. To end, whether intrinsically, that means to cease, be finished, perish, or transitively, to complete, prepare, to consume. Brown Driver Briggs, to accomplish, cease, consume, determine, end, fail, finish, be complete, be accomplished, be ended, be at an end, be finished, be spent. So the word pertaineth comes from this word, which basically means to end something, to stop it, to consume it. So the word itself, the one we're looking at, is 36:27. It says something prepared, that is an apparatus, as an implement, utensil, dress, vessel, or weapon. An article, vessel, implement, utensil, etc. So, what is it saying in the verse? What's the definition of this word from what we've read? 36:27. What does that mean? Sorry? Weapon, you said? Sorry? What's a vessel? A container? Sorry? What's a utensil? Sorry? That will just sort of take us round in a circle. I'd like a sort of a tidier one. Sorry? No, it's only masculine because it's connected to the man. I'm pretty sure you can have a female version of this. So the masculinity is not connected to its definition. I'm suggesting it isn't. A utensil is what? So if we go to Brown Driver Briggs, perhaps it's a bit easier. He says an implement or a tool to hunt or to war. Sorry? Then he just says equipment. So I've got tool, but it could be equipment. So when this word here, pertaineth, if we just drop it down, it says belong. It doesn't mean belong, does it? In the original. It doesn't mean belong at all. In fact, where would it go? If you're going to line things up. It'd line up with the garment, wouldn't it? Are we okay with that, Sister Emma? Yeah? In the English, it gets translated in a way that changes its meaning completely. It goes from being a tool or an instrument to belongs. So we can see it's changed its meaning completely. The way the English is translated, it doesn't work. So it's this passage is I don't want to say a badly translated passage, but when you go from the Hebrew to the English, the intent or the meaning is completely hidden and disguised. It changes. The way the words are put together change. In fact, I would suggest that the word that isn't even in the original. It's not there. So they added the word that to make it fit with garment, and then they changed the word pertaineth and made it belong. Are we okay with that, what they've done? The word that isn't there. They've added that to make it line up with the garment, and they've changed the word pertaineth from a tool or an instrument to belongs. Everybody okay with that? So what is this word meaning? What's it talking about? If you go to Brown Driver's Briggs, another definition is an object. And what would the object be if you're going to line him up? It would be this garment, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be the belongs. So what is it referring to? The woman shall not... What? She shall not become... Now it gets difficult to how we're going to paraphrase this. That which pertaineth to a man. That which pertaineth to, not a man, but a warrior. Is that how you spell warrior? So, she's not allowed to become a warrior. How would she become a warrior? Sorry? So she has to take these instruments, and if she took them, it would make her into a warrior. You can see that? So by taking a weapon or a tool or a container, a vessel. What is a vessel? It's a shell, isn't it? Are we vessels? Yeah? So vessels contain something. So in this context, what would a container be? What would the container be? It would be something that you fit inside, which would be some armor. You can derive the concept of armor here just from this concept of container. In fact, if you go to the definition, I think it even says that. Not the definition. If you go to the translation, it's translated armor in certain places. I think it comes from this concept of container. It's a tool, because armor is a tool, isn't it? It has a functional purpose. Whether it's hunting, war, or music, or labour. So if it was music, it would be an instrument. Yes? So if you're going to do this, a woman would become what? What will she become if you were going to do this one? This one. She'd become a musician if she took what? That which belongs to whom? To a musician. So if this word was musician here, it means she took his instrument, because that's what it says, the instrument. She took the instrument and it would make her, she would become what? Musician. She would become the same thing that he was. What makes her have that power? The thing itself, isn't it? This is what makes you into that thing. We okay with that? Is that accurate to Hebrew culture? Now, if you're a soldier today, what makes you a soldier? I want to suggest that it's not. I want to suggest that it's not being equipped with the equipment. Being a soldier, if you were a soldier and you're on holiday and you go somewhere on holiday and they say, "What are you?" What would you say? They say, "You don't look like one. You don't have any weaponry. You don't have your uniform. What kind of soldier are you?" What would you say? Sorry? What would you say to them? Not an ID. Someone said, "I'm trained. It's my job." You could prove it if you want to, but it's a job. And you're a soldier, whether you're on duty or off duty. Yeah? They work 5 days a week like most people. On the weekend, they're still soldiers, aren't they? When they're on holidays, they're still soldiers. So what makes this woman a soldier or a warrior? What makes her a warrior or a soldier? Not training. The instrument does. So what makes a man a warrior? Sorry? Someone said training. Age. Don't get tricked. It's not gender or age. It's the instrument. What was that man yesterday? Sorry? He was a farmer yesterday, a carpenter yesterday. What is he today? Has he received any training? Where did we prove that? Where did we prove it? Deuteronomy chapter 20. They're so fearful because they're few, not trained, and they don't have proper equipment. The other ones have got horses and chariots. So we can proof text that another way. Joel chapter 3. How could we prove it from Joel chapter 3? You go to the blacksmith and you put your instrument into the forge and they change it. Yes? They change it. We'll go with labour. They change a plough into a sword one day. And when the war's finished, you go back and he changes the sword into a plough. So what makes that person a brave, fighting man? Of course, the age, we get that. But it's not just the gender and it's not the age. Because they can be the same age and the same gender and they're not brave, fighting men, are they? They're just normal people. So the thing that transforms them is this instrument. Yes? You okay with that? So what does the woman have to do? When he's not looking, she just has to just get the tool, get the instrument, and she suddenly becomes, what number is this? 1397. What makes you 1397 now is not your age or your gender. It's not that. It's the instrument. Can we see that? Yeah? We can proof text that with the verse itself. Now it's got nothing to do with age or gender. Now it's all got to do with the instrument. Yes? And what does it say? The woman shall not become a 1397. If she put on this or use this, would she become that? Yes. So this is a restriction in her role or her job function in society. That's what this verse is teaching. It's defining the role of a woman in that society. And it's not that women can't become carpenters or farmers or blacksmiths or cooks. What can a woman not become? Cannot become a warrior. So the purpose of our class is not to discuss why she cannot. So I'm not going to discuss why she cannot. I'm just stating it as a fact. Are we okay with that? Any questions on that so far? Are we clear that this first part of the verse says, if you're a woman, don't take those instruments and become a 1397. A man shall not dress like a woman. If a man dressed like a woman, what would he be? What would he be? Not abomination. He'd still be a man. He'd still be a man. Dressing like a woman does not turn you into a woman. But taking up an instrument transforms you into what? It's not a man. It transforms you into a warrior. Wearing women's clothes does not transform you into a woman. They're not the same. They're not equivalent, if I can say it that way. It says man, but this is a warrior. Let's take the gender bit out of that. A woman is not allowed to take the tools or instruments that are assigned for a specific job function and take up that role. And a man is not allowed to dress like a woman. Why would a man want to dress like a woman? One moment, my brother. Why would a man want to dress like a woman? Try and do it with one word.
Become like a woman.
Yeah. Why did what? No, they don't want to become like a woman. It's not. You're not becoming like a woman. That's the top one. You become this thing. Why does a man want to dress like a woman? What's the problem?
To deceive.
Sorry?
To deceive.
No. My sister. Because they're scared. Yes? A real proper soldier is not allowed to be scared, because what will they do? They kill you or put you into prison. These are not real soldiers. These are a militia. They're not trained. And God knows that. And when you go and face the enemy, what's going to likely be the result? Cowardice. You're going to be scared. He knows you're going to be scared, so he tells you, don't be scared, I'm with you. And what is fear going to be portrayed as? Here, in this passage. You're going to dress like a woman. Now, I'm not saying these men dressed up like women and they shaved their beards and they said, let's do some cooking or something. It's not that literal, if I can say it that way. It's saying you cannot take that position that a woman holds by forsaking this. And the reason you would do that is because you're fearful and scared. You're not allowed to leave the post of duty because you're scared. And the women are not allowed to do what? When all those men are running for their lives, fearful. They're not allowed to take up arms and say, if they don't fight, we'll fight. We okay with that? They have these predetermined roles in society, whether we like it or whether we don't. Are we okay with that? So when we went to Deuteronomy chapter 20, we saw that there's church and state, and both the church and state are saying what? Don't be a coward, don't be afraid. You're not allowed to do what? Do we know what AWOL means? Absent without leave. You're not allowed to run away, are you? Is it a criminal offence to run away? Running away means what? You will not fight. Is it a criminal offence to not fight? No. It depends. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. If you don't fight because of fear, is that criminal? Yes. Because you're not trusting in whom? God. If you don't trust in God, it's sin. That's what this is saying. This bottom line. Don't dress like women. Don't take their role in society. There's a second reason why you don't go to war. Why don't you go to war? There's a second reason. Deuteronomy 20, verse 5, 6 and 7. I say there's a second reason why you don't. That second reason is in three parts. It's 2A, B and C. Okay? I've done it the wrong way. I've done it backwards. Verse 8 says fear, which would be number 2. But I've just swapped them round. So, we'll do it the right way. Then number 2 is fear. Wrong reason. Number 1 is in 3 parts. A, B, or C. What are the 3 reasons you don't have to fight? First reason? Marriage. Second reason? Second reason? Anybody here? Second reason? A house. And the third? Just one person shout. I'm going to say a field. Farming. If you've just married, if you've just built a house, and if you've just planted your field or your vineyard, it says in the verse, you don't have to go to war. That's the only reasons why you don't have to fight. Are we okay with that?
If you have your brother's wife,
Sorry? I didn't catch that.
if you are given your brother's wife,
Does it say that in the verse?
verse 6.
Is that just marriage though? Is that any different? I think I'm not sure what the point you were making there. Doesn't it just fit into marriage? Build a house, verse 5. Verse 6, plant a vineyard. Verse 7, a wife. Okay, so there are the three reasons, legitimate reasons. The reason that's bad, so these are all good reasons. The bad reason is you're scared. And the symbol of fear would be what? This one. You dress in women's clothing. So the first part says what? Women are not allowed to do what? Warriors, they're not allowed to fight. So if you go to the world, are women allowed to fight today? Sure. So the verse is no longer applicable. We've already said that. No application. It's not applicable. Has no function for us today. Are we okay with that? Are we comfortable?
External or internal?
I just gave the external example. Society dictates everyone can go to war. But that was just a point that I was making. That's not a proof. I'm asking, is the verse applicable today? Because we all say yes in our class, and when you go out into the real world and you get beaten up from your brethren, I don't know if we'd all be so brave then. Say, yeah, of course, we just throw away Bible verses. Okay, so what I want to suggest is this. Let's not make an application of this. Let's see why it's no longer valid. What's our fundamental proof that this verse is no longer applicable to us? Good, that was in the time of disorder, we're in the time of order. God is ordering things, putting everything back in their proper order. So, I've got 2 minutes, so I'm just going to give the answer. We're all calling ourselves what? Or? These are not all equivalents. Or? Stones. Stones of Daniel 2, not the stones that Elder Tess spoke of yesterday. Daniel 2 stone. What does that stone do? Does it not fight? Yeah? Does it not need something here to do that fighting with? Yes? Which is what the 144,000 do. Which is what the priests do. And who are priests? Who are 144,000? Who are stones? Men and women. That's not these men. These are normal men and normal women. They become 1397. They become warriors by doing what? By taking up that instrument. Now, do we all believe that we're all required to become priests. It's not even a choice. We're obliged to be priests. You agree with that? No choice in that. What is the instrument that we have to take up to transform us into these people? Sorry? The gospel. We could have many different answers depending on the question. We could say it's this pen, it's this whiteboard, but fundamentally it's the gospel, which is the message that we have, which we would say would be the third angel's message. So let me summarize. Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, when it gets translated in the English and it all starts talking about clothing, is not the original intent of what that passage is dealing with. It's talking about societal roles. That men are not allowed to be cowards. It's against the law, if we can say law. Good advice. It's wrong for them to do that. But for other reasons, they don't have to fight. And when all these men are not doing their role, it's not acceptable for a woman to say, well, if they're not going to do it, I'll do it. We're not discussing why. But what we are saying is when you take that story and you bring it into the 21st century, in the dispensation in which we live, every single one of us, men and women, are required to be priests, 144,000, be the stone that's cut out of the mountain, which means we're all required to be these warriors. And the instrument that transforms us into this is the third angel's message, that we would just call the message or the gospel. So this is the reason why I'm saying this verse is no longer applicable to God's people. In fact, it was never applicable to God's people, but Ellen White chose to take that and make her own unique application in her dispensation, which she's free to do. But what I'm doing is not making my own application. I'm taking it from the original intent, seeing what it meant, and showing you that it's no longer applicable today. If it's no longer applicable today, what do we do with it? What benefit is it to us? We can show why it's not applicable. We can show how things have changed. So, in summary, I don't believe Deuteronomy 22 verse 5 is talking about dresses and trousers. I don't think he's talking about men dressing up as women and women dressing up as men using these heathen rites that some commentators have discussed. But we spent a lot of time looking at Deuteronomy and discussing the rights and wrongs of this person, how you're transformed into this person. We've looked at the verse, see how the words are used in the English and how they're used in the original language, and we can see that they're substantially different. We've seen what transforms you into this in two different ways. You're a man that's over 20, one definition. But the other definition is this instrument that does that. Because you were a man over 20 and you were a farmer, you don't fit into that category. They don't have a standing army, they're a militia. So every man is this thing here once they take up the suitable instrument. A woman is not to do that role. Today, a woman is required to do that role. Someone said equality. Yes, it's the subject of the priest. We're all priests. We're all part of the 144,000. We're all part of the stone that's cut out of the mountain, which means we're all warriors that make war against the statue of Daniel chapter 2. And therefore, this is no longer applicable to any one of us. We're all required to take up our instrument, our tool. And we don't have an option to do that. So the verse gets turned upside down, wrong way round. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness and mercy. We want to ask and pray that you would be with us, bless us and guide us in the meditation and study of your word. Help us, Father, to have a clearer understanding about how we should investigate your word. And we ask, Lord, that you would guide and direct us. Even when we think that we're using the right methodology, it's easy to make mistakes. Therefore, we ask for guidance and wisdom from the Holy Spirit. And we also ask, Lord, that we would press closer together, that mind would sharpen mind, and that by coming together where 2 or 3 are gathered, as you have promised, you will be with us, and we can enter into all truth. May this be our experience, we pray in Jesus' name.